Window screenshot your entire screen. I cannot get my screen.
Sir, now you are getting the option. A small.
No, কোনো অপশনই পাচ্ছি না আমি প্রেজেন্ট নাও করলাম।
তারপরে স্যার আপনার ওইখানে গিয়ে
মোর অপশন একটা আছে। আমার তো এন্টার ইয়েটা আসবে, উইন্ডো আসছে না, এন্টার স্ক্রিনটা আসছে, আসছে তো আমার তো থাকবে তো।
না স্যার, এবার এন্টায়ার স্ক্রিনটাতে আপনি যখন ক্লিক করবেন তখন একটা ছোট আপনার পুরো স্ক্রিনটার একটা ছোট ভার্সন ওখানে হ্যাঁ, ওটা ক্লিক করুন, ওটার উপর ক্লিক করলে শেয়ার অপশনটা আসবে।
না, শেয়ার অপশন
আর ক্যান্সেল। হ্যাঁ, এই তো স্যার, ইউ স্টার্টেড শেয়ারিং। নাও what you do is you just show us what you want to show.
Okay.
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, শুভদীপ, হ্যাঁ বলো। আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, আমি আমাদের এইচওডি ম্যাম আছে,
আমি দেখে নিচ্ছি। ওকে, আমি দেখে নিচ্ছি শুভদীপ।
আজ আমি ভিডিওটা একবার দেখে নিচ্ছি, ভিডিওটাও দেখে নিচ্ছি একটু।
আচ্ছা স্যার, একবার ভিডিওটা চালিয়ে দেখে নিন।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, আমি দেখছি। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, আমি হ্যাঁ, হচ্ছে, স্ট্রিম হচ্ছে।
ভিডিওটা দেখতে পাচ্ছ? ভিডিও দেখা যাচ্ছে
স্যার? একদম দেখা যাচ্ছে।
ওকে, ঠিক আছে, ভিডিও দেখা যাচ্ছে, মানে এইটা দেখা যাচ্ছে, এটা দেখতে পাচ্ছ? রাইট,
দেখতে পাচ্ছি স্যার, শুধু ফুল স্ক্রিন করে নিতে হবে।
এখন শুরু করে দাও, এটা ফুল স্ক্রিন করে দাও। ঠিক আছে তাহলে।
ঠিক আছে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। হ্যাঁ বলো। স্যারের অসুবিধা হবে না। স্যারকে যখন তুমি পিন করে রেখো, যখন স্যার কথা বলবেন স্যারকে যেন দেখা যায় এবং স্যারের প্রেজেন্টেশনটা যেন দেখা যায়। হ্যাঁ 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 হ্যাঁ, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, না না। ওই অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স শিটটা ডেটা হয়ে যাবে। হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
হ্যাঁ, আমি আছি।
ডিজি ম্যাম, ঠিক বললাম সব?
না না না,
হ্যাঁ ঠিক বলেছো। তোমার কানেক্টিভিটি প্রবলেম হচ্ছে কিন্তু তোমার, হ্যাঁ রূপসার কানেক্টিভিটি প্রবলেম হচ্ছে। ভিডিওটা অফ করে দাও।
ভিডিও অফ করে দেবো?
হ্যাঁ, কারণ কি কথা কেটে কেটে আসছে।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা।
হ্যাঁ বলো।
পারফেক্ট। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, ভিডিও অফ করে রাখতে হবে।
আচ্ছা,
আমাদের ভিডিও
ঠিক আছে।
ভিডিও অন করলেই না কানেক্টিভিটি প্রবলেম হচ্ছে, জন্য ভিডিওটা অফ রাখাই ভালো। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ।
আচ্ছা, এখন থেকে কি তাহলে কি অ্যাডমিট করব যারা আসবে?
হ্যাঁ, অ্যাডমিট করতে শুরু করে দাও। 5:15 হয়ে গেছে, আর সবাই জন্য ভিডিওটা অফ রাখে। হুম 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 করো 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 পূজা, অ্যাডমিট করতে শুরু কর।
Shulagna, can you please start presenting the screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Shulagna, can you please start presenting the screen?
I'm presenting. Is it visible? Yes, yes. I'm presenting. Is it visible?
এখানে যখন সে ওদের কাজ
Hello?
পূজা,
হ্যাঁ বলো।
বলছি যে আমরা যখনই কথা বলছি না, কিছুক্ষণ পরে পরে ওটা একটা ইকো হয়ে আসছে। ওটা কি কোনোভাবে বন্ধ করা সম্ভব? মানে ওটা কি একটু শুভদীপটা কিছু হেল্প করতে পারবে? মানে আমি জানি না কেন, মানে আমরা একটা একটা পোস্ট, একটা
আর
ফিডব্যাক
কি
টাইপের পাচ্ছি।
মানে তুমি কি কি বলে ইউটিউবটাও দেখছো একসাথে?
না, আমি তো ইউটিউবে যাইনি।
ইউটিউবে যাওনি তো?
না,
তাহলে তাহলে ইকো হওয়ার কথা নয়, কিন্তু
কথা
আমি
না।
ইকো পাচ্ছি না কিন্তু।
আচ্ছা, তো
না
মানে
আমার
তোমরা
কিন্তু,
একটা কথা একবারই শুনছো তো?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ।
আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে, ঠিক আছে।
Rupsha? Hello? Rupsha, are you there? Hello?
Yes, I'm there.
Has Principal Ma'am joined in the meeting?
We can start.
Yes, I have joined.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think
Ma'am, can we start now?
minutes. We must. I think we must wait for a few minutes. At least participants should reach 100. Now 97. It's in the increase now.
Okay, ma'am.
So it's increasing. So at least it should touch 100.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
I would kindly request all the viewers to kindly switch off their videos and stop presenting their screens during the session.
Our speakers have joined now.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, okay.
Both of them have
Ghosh
joined.
and Professor Mojumdar. Yes. Hello, Dr. Mojumdar. Hello, Dr. Mojumdar. Sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello,
Hi,
madam.
sir.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Hello, Professor.
I would request all the viewers to please stop presenting their screen.
Hello, Professor Ghosh. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Good afternoon,
Good
sir.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Okay, Rupsha.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we can start now.
We can start now, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Devashree Dev Ghosh, HOD of the Department of Food and Nutrition and convener of Webinar Organizing Committee, welcome to all of you to today's international webinar on coronavirus disease COVID-19, a review of its pathophysiology and epidemiology, organized by Department of Food and Nutrition, Tara Devi Harakchand Kankaria Jain College, Kolkata. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. First, today's webinar will be available on Google Meet as well as live session in the YouTube link. We would love to hear from you after today's presentation. If you have a question for our speakers, please feel free to send it through the chat box. We will be answering questions at the end of the two sessions, and you all are requested to turn off your microphones and webcams for better participation. Now, without further ado, I shall turn the time over to respected Dr. Moushumi Singh Sengupta, Principal, Tara Devi Harakchand Kankaria Jain College, Kolkata, for her welcome address. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Devashree, for your introductory note. Good evening, everyone. My greetings and warm welcome to all the participants of today's one-day international webinar on coronavirus disease, COVID-19, a review of its pathophysiology and epidemiology, which is organized by Department of Food and Nutrition of THK Jain College. I feel very much honored to receive Professor Dr. Pradeep Ghosh of Department of Physical Therapy, Maryville University, St. Louis, USA. and to this event as a speaker of technical session 1. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and giving your kind consent to speak for all of us. I am also, I offer my warm welcome to Dr. Kunal Kanti Mujumdar, Department of Community Medicine, Kepisi Medical College, Kolkata. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and giving your consent to speak for us. Now, as we are locked down for last 4.5 months at the home, and as each and every institution has shifted for online education, so we are no exception to this, and our departments of our various departments of THK Jain College have been successfully organizing webinars, both national, international and state level webinars for last 4.5 months. This time the Department of Food and Nutrition has come up with new ideas and has organized this international webinar. So I'm really thankful to the organizer, the convener of this program, Dr. Debosri Dev Ghosh and Rupsha Ghosh and Shulagna and all other faculty members of this department for taking this initiative to arrange for this webinar. And I'm also thankful to the members of the technical teams who is giving our, who is assisting basically for organizing this and for conducting this seminar in online platform. So without getting any further delay, I'd request now the organizer to start the program. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your kind speech. Now, we would like to proceed with our scientific sessions. Today's international webinar has 2 important scientific lectures, which will be followed by a question-answer session. The viewers are reminded that they may drop in their questions in their either Google Meet chat box or YouTube comment box. They will be addressed at the end of both the lectures by our eminent speakers. At the very beginning of the scientific session, I, Rupsha Ghosh, take the proud privilege to introduce Dr. Pradeep Ghosh, Professor, Department of Physical Therapy, Maryville University, St. Louis, USA. He is primarily engaged in teaching graduate courses in neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, neurological diseases, and pharmacology. Besides, Dr. Ghosh is also an honorary professor of physiology and physiotherapy in Amity University, Delhi. He has over 38 years of teaching experience. Dr. Ghosh is also a clinician practicing as a physical therapist, where he is engaged in treating patients with neurological diseases. He has received his master's and doctoral degree from University of Calcutta, homeopathic degree from Calcutta Homeopathic Medical College, and his physical therapy degree from Ohio State University. He has been actively engaged in clinical research on rehabilitation of patients with stroke and Parkinsonism. He has provided over 350 continuing education courses on stroke, 75 on Parkinson's disease, 10 courses on pain management for physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, faculty members within USA and abroad. He has given multiple presentations before the World Confederation of Physical Therapy and at different universities in Spain, France, Germany, Denmark, Holland, UAE, Costa Rica, and India. Professor Ghosh has authored and co-authored 49 peer-reviewed research papers and 60 abstracts. Now I would request Sir to kindly shed light on the new normal and what it entails through the topic COVID-19, pathogenesis, clinical presentation, management, prevention, and implication. Over to you, Dr. Ghosh.
Thank you for nice introduction, and thank you, Dr. Mushmish Singh Gupta, for inviting me. Of course, Rupsha was involved too. And I'd like to share my information. This is my, I think, 8th lecture, so I have been giving over the last couple of months. So my 8th lecture on COVID. And I am definitely, my goal is to increase the awareness among people throughout the world. What is the consequence? And if we do not take care of ourselves, and if we do not follow certain rules and regulations, or
Hello, Rupsha. Hello, Rupsha.
hello.
I think there is a problem. Said is not audible, Rupsha.
Yes, sir, is audible. We can hear, sir. Debosri.
Okay, sir.
We can hear.
Can you hear?
We can hear, sir.
Okay. Let me share first. Just a minute. I don't know. Share. The screen. And then share. Then,
The entire screen?
can you see it?
Yes, sir. Just make it full.
Okay. So let me continue that. My goal is to increase awareness throughout the world, because I do hear from media, I do hear from everywhere. Let me say, not everyone is following the rules and regulations. That's my main goal, because there is nothing so far. So hopefully, then all of you are going to get something out of it and try to convey this information among the community, so that everybody will understand that means if they do not follow the rules and regulation, what will be the consequence. Okay, so let me start this one, because I know that means I have certain time limitations, so I have to finish it within the time. I'll try my best all together, and in order to address audience, and so that that everybody will get something out of it. Now that the presentation has a copyright, so I'm very clear, because anything that we say, if you want to take it from here, you need the permission, because anybody can use some of the content, but permission is essential. Taking this sometimes, that people, they will take it without any acknowledgement, and that is not ethical. So I need to be very clear before I start my talk. So let me start about the coronavirus. Coronavirus has been in the environment for a long period of time, right? So there are two different types of the coronavirus: alpha and the beta coronavirus. And the coronavirus, their main things, they can affect the human body, they can affect the animal too. Initially, if you think about them, there are two different beta coronaviruses. One is the SARS. SARS stands for the severe acute respiratory syndrome. In China in 2003, became the epidemic, and then pandemic. And MERS, that means this is the Middle East respiratory syndrome, that is in Saudi Arabia in 2012. In 2019, the SARS-CoV-2 it originated in China. So all these coronavirus, mostly the beta coronavirus, they are enveloped the RNA viruses, and their main goal is to infect the human body and respiratory problem. And the respiratory problem, and in addition, because of the all of you know that we say not only affects the respiration, but other system too. We are going to talk about all these things. In February 2020, the disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2, which is very important. SARS-CoV-2 is a virus, and the disease caused by the virus is called the COVID-19. And I do also see them say the paper and all these things, they do interchange. The COVID-19 is a disease, it's not the virus. It's not the SARS-CoV-2 is a virus. So in 2020 February, the World Health Organization gave the name about COVID-19. It became epidemic first in China. All of you know, in the month of December, then followed by the bigger spread throughout the world and causing pandemic. And sequencing, genome sequencing and phylogenetic analysis, we get that SARS-CoV-2 virus is a beta coronavirus, as I mentioned before, and it does replicate by copying their genetic material by using the enzyme is the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. It is not similar to the HIV or the immunodeficiency virus. So it is different, it's the RNA virus. And the structure of the genome that is responsible to bind receptor is very similar to the other SARS coronavirus. close to 20 million confirmed cases as per yesterday, about more than 725,000 deaths around the world. In India, that is third in the list, more than 2 million confirmed, 42,500 deaths. In terms of death, India is the second in the line. The first is the USA. Their death is about close to 158,000 deaths, about 5 million confirmed cases. So this is going on. The three different countries are most suffering. That is the top is USA, and then is the Brazil, third is the India, and the fourth is the Russia. All four are suffering. Now, when I check the recent trend, just yesterday, we do see the most of the country in Europe only 1-2 death, and in India, that is, I forgot exactly what are the number of the death. I think more than about 600 to 700, between 600 and 700 deaths. And in USA is about 1,200 deaths. So this is, I do not know, something is different. Now let's talk about the structure. This structure, it is called coronavirus because it's crown shaped. It has a spike protein. It has a protein called the nucleocapsid, membrane protein, and it is the envelope virus. Envelope protein is there, along with the single-stranded RNA. And that spike protein has different subunits. And then one subunit has the receptor binding domain that can recognize angiotensin converting enzyme to receptors. And those are in the tau. So the origin and transmission is not clear. It has been identified that there is a strong association seafood market, and that sold the live animals in China, and the individuals who work there and who visited there to buy the materials, and they get more infected. As the RNA sequence of SARS-CoV is very close to other beta coronavirus, so the source of this virus is possibly the bat. Similar to SARS-CoV-1, that is the SARS, this virus enters human cell, as I mentioned. It targets, it recognizes specific receptors, that is called the angiotensin converting enzyme to receptors, and they are widely distributed throughout the human body, especially in the lung, in the heart. We'll talk more about that. Again, I have some limitations, so I'll make it more concise so that everyone will be able to understand. So transmission, it is not known whether the virus is directly transmitted from bat to the human or through some intermediate host. And it has been well established the pangolin in China, they get more infected. So they suggested there is an intermediate host that is called the pangolin. And human-to-human transmission is the cause for this fast spread of the virus. And this is a human-to-human transmission is taking place through the droplets. These droplets we'll talk about. These droplets are there to spread or the direct contact. Then those are the ways. Now, the virus replication is similar to the other the replication in the host cell. Virus first recognize the receptor on the host cell surface, as I mentioned. Then they bind. Then the process that is called the cell is going to engulf the virus. Then virus, they're going to release the genetic materials, that is a single-stranded RNA. With the help of the host ribosome, then they start to replicate. They start to replicate. And not only replicate, they also translate to produce the different protein. And the replication leads to the formation of the RNA, leading to the RNA responsible for the nucleocapsid, RNA responsible for the spike protein S1 and S2 subunits, RNA responsible for the membrane protein, right? All these protein, their RNA will be produced, their protein will be produced. They assemble together and then they release from the host cell to process meiosis. This is the mechanism. This is the way the virus they will multiply within the host cell. The transmission, the infected individual, right? Infected individual, when they cough, when they sneeze, when they talk, right? The droplets are going to come out. And these droplets are the main them is the vector for the virus, and that is the way the message is going to be transmitted. And if the susceptible individual is surrounding that infected individual, they will get it. And within that zone, if the susceptible individual there. And there are some other ways the airborne, because there are some questions about the aerosol. The aerosol, the virus, there might be a possibility. For some virus, there might be a possibility it may transfer to the aerosol too, because it has been found that if in the experimentally design, they put in the aerosol, and virus can stay up to 4 hours in the aerosol in the environment. So the direct contact is another one. That means a virus, that means who are infected. If they sneeze, if they cough, if those virus their hand, and they touch down, the individual transmitted. And through indirect contact too, we talk some of them. Droplets typically do not travel more than 6 feet. Very important. They do not. I'm going to show some video at the end of my talk. Those are very important to watch that one too. So 6 feet, about 2 meters. Transmission is thought not to occur through the inhalation of the aerosol. That means that is thought, but there are some suspect, as I mentioned before. Long-range airborne transmission of COP2 has not clearly been documented. The risk of transmission from individual to the SARS-CoV, it varies by the type and the duration of the exposure and the use of preventative measure and the comorbid situation about the individual recipient, his or her, the condition. It is well established that virus can spread at workplace, in the social gathering, where personal contact can occur. So SARS-CoV-2, that is very important. It does not spread through any fluid, right? Because respiratory generally they are transmitted to the blood, to the urine, to the stool, right? But this virus has been found in the blood, in the stool, in the ocular secretion of infected individual. Now, the environmental contamination, that is the virus present on the contaminated surface. And that may be another source of infection if the susceptible individual touches the surface. So it has been found that the individual who are sick, who are positive, who are in the hospital, and they tested in all the surface within that room, and they found all the surface has a positive result, and they have the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So it is not known how long the SARS-CoV-2 virus can persist on surfaces. Let me show on table. There's a lot of confusion, I know, in India, even in the United States. People are taking and getting the food or the fruits from the shop or the grocery store. And they come and they do clean it. They do wash it with the soap. Those are bad. With sometimes disinfectant they use it. It's bad. Because this virus, they do not transmit to the food. In the metal, for example, in the jewelry, in the doorknob, it can stay up to 5 days. In the drinking glasses, mirror, window, it can stay up to 5 days. In the newspaper, magazine, which are delivered by the people, it can stay up to 5 days. If the milk bottle is plastic, right? If the milk bottle is plastic, any switch, any elevator switch, any button, it can stay up to 2 to 3 days. If the water bottle is stainless steel, if in the refrigerator is stainless steel, it can stay up to 2 to 3 days. If the water bottle is aluminum, it can stay only for 2 to 8 hours. But food water does not seem to spread through food, right? It does not spread to the food. It doesn't spread to the water, right? Very important to know that part. It appears that SARS-CoV-2 can be transmitted from people prior to the environment. Very important part. You think I'm going to put that one I'm going to emphasize. The individual, somebody get infected, they do not produce the symptoms right there. Those are called the pre-symptomatic. And this infection, it is well known, the patient may be infectious 1 to 3 days before they start their symptoms. And that is the dangerous time. And that is the time, most of the time, the virus can infect others. Documented that patients have high nasopharyngeal viral level just before and soon after the symptom appears, but it does then go down over the first week of the period. Again, first week of disease. And during the time that it depends again, how long the virus is going to stay, it depends on the severity of the illness. The incubation period, that is called the incubation period. The incubation period is 40 days to 40 days. That is the maximum. But average is about 4 to 5 days. Transmission, symptomatic immunity has also been documented. And there is a study, and where there is a SARS-CoV-2 outbreak, the long-term facility, and they found, and this virus is tested by, generally the test they use is called the reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction, right? Reverse transcription. And they found that this infectious virus was respiratory tract specimen in both pre-symptomatic and asymptomatic patients. They tested animals, and they found some of the patients, they don't have any symptoms. Some of the patients, they didn't have the symptoms. Within 2-3 days, they had the symptoms. They are all positive. So, very important to know that up to 40 to 50% of the cases, what we see throughout the world, that is due to the spread from the asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic people. That is big challenge for everyone, for the healthcare professional, for anyone. So how long a person remains infectious is also uncertain. It depends on multiple factors, including the severity of the illness. One study, by recruiting 56 patients, and those patients, they are mild to moderate illness, because mild to moderate means in the moderate they have some kind of the respiratory problem, pneumonia, but they are not severe. The median duration of the RNA study was 24 days, and maximum is the 40 days. But it is known that patients with a severe disease, they may shed the virus for a longer period of time, although the duration is not clear. Now, one part I need to emphasize, although I know most of you are not clinicians, so I need to emphasize this part. From the beginning, in the month of January, when I read this one, and first I thought it is going to cause the inflammation, and inflammation will cause the disease, all the problem, and that is true. The infection of any virus or the bacteria, infectious agents will attack us. We have the protection, that we have the barrier, we have defense, right? And inflammation works as a first line of defense. And when it does have some protection, we have some protection, and that type of the immunity is called the innate immunity. Cells, the macrophage, right? There are different, the cells, the blood cells, they play a role. Even the different tissue, they play a role. And then the adaptive immunity means when that infection change in the lymphocyte, T and B lymphocyte, and changing sometimes the antibody formation or an alteration in sometimes their function, then and to protect our the body from that virus or infectious agent, that is called adaptive immunity. So we, after the inflammation, that means we have some activation of the both innate and the adaptive immunity, and damage should be resolved, and homeostasis will be restored. Homeostasis will be restored, and that does happen normally. So inflammation is good. Inflammation can protect our body against any kind of the foreign agent, but depending on the foreign agent. If the infectious agent is non-lethal, our body is going to recognize, which is called the immune recognition, leading to the formation of the cells, immune cells, and resolution, in order to maintain the homeostasis, in order to clear the infectious agent. By increasing the secretion of the interleukin-6, there's an inflammatory marker, TNF-alpha. This is a normal process and post-survival. But if the infectious agent is lethal, the immune evasion leading to the abnormal, inappropriate, delayed immune presentation. And that can lead to the irregular and abnormal and increased secretion of pro-inflammatory known as cytokine storm. That is called the hypercytokainemia. And when cytokine storm is there, when the secretion, when the release of these cytokines are not controlled, it can cause further damage to the tissue and not only the cell, but it is going to damage the whole individual. Each and organ will be affected because this cytokine will not be only localized in that infected area, but it is going to go through the blood and it is going to cause multiple changes, and as a result, the individual, they cannot survive. Very important. So hypothesis, virus, they do enter, all of you know that. And they do enter through the nose, the mouth, through the eye, again also through the eye too, right? To the mucous membrane. And the virus then enters the peripheral blood. It has to go through the blood, leading to, then they attack the multiple organ, which has the angiotensin converting to enzyme, the angiotensin converting enzyme to receptors, such as the lung, kidney, heart, right? And then start to produce a symptom. And somebody said that means initial symptoms, most of the time, initial symptoms is a fever, cough, some problem, like breathing problem, sore throat. Some patient might have some kind of achy body. Some patient may have, with the initial symptoms, may have some kind of abnormal chest, right? But the progress of this disease varies from patient to patient, individual to individual. We have found that the median time from symptom onset to ARDS stands for the acute respiratory distress symptoms is about 8 days. In the early stage of the disease, WBC count in the blood is mostly normal and can be slightly lower. Then what is going to happen? B lymphocytes reduction may occur. And with the disease progression, T lymphocytes such as CD4, CD8 cells, they are reduced significantly. Early part of the disease, they say pro-inflammatory cytokines, as I mentioned, in response to the lethal infectious agent, those cytokines such as the tumor necrotic factor, interleukin-6, interleukin-1 beta, so they are produced excessively. And those cytokines pose a risk of vascular hyperpermeability, multi-organ failure. So studies have shown the survivors from the COVID, they have higher level of neutrophil, ferritin, very important, D-dimer protein. D-dimer protein, merely that is the indication. D-dimer protein is surely the indication of the fibrin degradation. Fibrin degradation. Increased fibrin is responsible for the clot, right? And protein will increase, blood urea nitrogen, creatinine, protein, all will increase. And these abnormalities, these laboratory values, depending on the level, have been associated with the critical and fatal illness. So looking at that, this is if we can divide that whole phase of the disease into 3 different phases: initial viremia phase, followed by the acute phase, and then by the severe phase. In the individual, the days that take after the infection, you will see in the viremia and acute phase, both T lymphocytes, these are B lymphocytes, B lymphocyte and T lymphocytes start to decline. The acute phase, it is low. But on the other hand, you are going to see that one. This is the D-dimer protein, D-dimer, and you are going to see the inflammatory factors. All the inflammatory factors, they're going to go up and then uncontrolled, leading to the severe phase. That's why the one idea was, if during the early phase, early acute phase, if the patients or the individual can get the treatment, again, I'm going to give the information. I'm not a doctor and I'm not allowed to tell about the medicine. because since I do teach the pharmacology, I know that one. And that's why I'm giving this one, but it is always better if somebody learns something, it is better, always better to discuss with the MD or the doctors. So during the early acute phase, if the individual can get some intravenous immunoglobulin and low molecular weight heparin, that is level max, if they get is going to give that one in order to block the clotting, in order to reduce the clotting. They found when it is given, there's a chance this decline in the T cells as well as B cells will be protected. And at the same time, the D dimer, just has a trend to increase, the D dimer is going to go down. So that might be one choice. Those who are looking for some drug medication, they should think about the coming up with the medicine, just like a cocktail medicine, combining different medicine to address the issue. Now, inflammation and clot formation, another big thing. Prothrombin will be, we know that prothrombin will be high. And prothrombin, we as a physiologist, as a doctor, everybody knows that prothrombin will be converted to thrombin. And this thrombin can lead to the formation of clot by converting fibrinogen to fibrin. In addition, it can also have cellular effects and can further augment the inflammation. And this augment inflammation, there are different mechanisms. One mechanism is a proteinase activated receptors. So, based on the phases, what should be the mechanism of hospital intervention? In the acute phase, of the patient is controlled. And if the individual does not have any other basic diseases, such as hypertension, cardiac condition, any cardiac arrhythmia, or diabetes, the virus can be effectively suppressed. But older, immune-compromised individual, immune-compromised means somebody might have some kind of treatment for a long period of time, such as in the patient with the rheumatoid arthritis, they take the corticosteroids for a long period of time. There are some individuals who had a cancer, they had a history of treatment of chemotherapy, they can suppress the immune function. Or with or without hypertension and diabetes, the immune system cannot effectively control the acute phase. And as a result, those patients, they enter into the severe and last phase of the disease. It has also been observed that patients with the severe COVID, they develop disseminated intermuscular clotting, coagulation. And this is due to the infection and inflammation that has to be involved. And that is happening. In severe patients, ischemic changes may also occur in different areas of the body, in the finger, in the toes, in the internal organ, ischemic changes in the heart, in the brain, in the kidney. Several doctors recommended the anticoagulation therapy, as I mentioned, with the low molecular weight heparin. Generally, if the D-dimer protein is 4 times higher, generally D-dimer protein is about 250 nanogram per ml, milliliter of blood. If it is 4 times, use some anticoagulation therapy using the low molecular weight heparin. Intravenous immunoglobulin is also helpful because they can interrupt those cytokines. Those cytokine storm, that inflammatory storm needs to be treated. In order to save that individual, if some drug can limit the storm, can block the excessive secretion or release, the patient may survive. Look at the COVID flow, there's some change, right? COVID flow is some changes there. Now, what manifestation? I'm going to go over this a little bit. Fevers, most of the patient, 99% patient, anorexia, loss of appetite, like 40% patient, myalgia, achy pain, muscle pain, dyspnea, difficulty in breathing, and smell and taste disorders, right, in some patients. And one thing very important, all the symptoms, they aggravate at night. At night. Some patients, they perspire too much at night. They sweat. They have sweating in the facial area, right, in the upper part of the body. and they do not feel good in the evening. Because of inflammation in the lung, alveoli will be filled with the fluid, and that will limit the carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange, and patient will have some trouble there. The pneumonia associated with COVID may be severe, and breathing difficulties might take months to improve. There are some questions whether if my lung gets infected, if I survive, some kind of consequence. Yes, there will be some consequence depending on the severity of the illness. Because fibrosis will be there in the lung. Some areas will not exchange. Depending on that, some patient might have one section, the part of the lung can be totally fibrosed, and as a result, oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange will be compromised. When more alveoli are filled up with the fluid, that's why when the inflammation is there, the patient starts having some breathing problems, and the patient will have the acute respiratory distress syndrome. This acute respiratory distress syndrome means that time patient might have more fibrosis, more thickness in the alveoli, and lung is going to have something like lung function. Older individual, they why lung different factors. Right? Lung is less elastic, their immunity is weak. That's why they're susceptible to get the disease. Is lung damage in COVID-19 reversible? Yes, depending on if the patient has a just initial part of the disease, right, mild disease, they recover, they have some kind of the problem, they have pneumonia, then it is going to come back. If the patient enters into the acute respiratory distress syndrome, there might be some problem in the lung. So can high-risk individual reduce the chance of lung damage? Individual with that COPD, diabetes, heart disease should be careful to manage and monitor their condition. They need to monitor their condition by following the doctor's advice, taking the scheduled medication, and doing the exercise. Breathing exercise is very important. We'll talk about that one too. Another part is very important. As you are getting older, you have a tendency to drink less water. So poor hydration or the proper hydration maintains a proper blood volume. If you do not take adequate water, this flow will be limited. It is going to cause more problem. Not only that, mucous membrane will not be healthy because they will lack their fluidity, and as a result, it is going to have some kind of they will be susceptible to get infected, right, and damage. Besides those, because that angiotensin converting enzyme to receptors are also present in the heart. Kidney damage can be affected. The cardiomyopathy, pulmonary embolism is another one because of the clot formation. The venous clot, because again it can cause a clotting in the both artery and the vein. And then that consequence in the pulmonary embolism, and that is an emergency situation leading to the respiratory failure. And if the clot is in the artery, then it can lead to the heart attack. It can lead to depending on which artery. If the coronary artery, heart attack, right, myocardial ischemia. If the artery is the cerebral artery, can lead to the stroke. And when this infection is going to be multiple areas of the body, and multiple the blood vessels are affected, leading to sepsis. Now, what is the recovery time? 2 weeks for mild disease and 3 to 6 weeks for severe diseases. And most of the cases, the patient they get recovery, except some, right? Except some. Older people they are at high risk. We all know that one. An individual who had some other comorbid situations such as the lung disease. Some patient might have the COPD. Some patient might have the cardiovascular disease. Had some kind of induction. Had been taking some medication for addiction. Had the patient has a diabetes. Another part. Obesity, kidney disease, cancer. So just the study came just a couple of days ago. Even when the vaccine is going to come, this vaccine, the action of the vaccine will be limited because of some of the comorbid situation. Individuals who are obese, the vaccination or those kind of vaccination will be difficult, right? So they come up with some kind of study, and that is published in the peer-reviewed journal. It is well known that individuals with higher glucose level are likely to be at greater risk for infection than those with the normal glucose level, because high glucose can inhibit white cell function. But very important to know, diabetes are actually not at increased. Individual who has diabetes, they are not at increased risk for catching. But if they get the virus, they will not be good. And that is the relationship between the hypertension and the administration. There are a lot of questions. Individuals with hypertension appear to have the worst outcome based on the results, based on all the patients they die. So biggest question is whether the ACE inhibitors, some patients, they get the ACE inhibitor in order to reduce their blood pressure, right? In order to reduce the blood pressure. We do not know whether that ACE inhibitor is going to help or hurt that individual. It is always better to, if anyone takes this ACE inhibitor, should consult with the doctor if the individual is positive with SARS-CoV-2. With a patient with cardiovascular condition taking a angiotensin receptor blocker should switch to another medication. It is not clear yet. Always better to consult with the doctor. Doctor will understand based on the symptom, based on the action, they will understand they can switch. My suggestion, better to switch. There are a lot of other medication they can be used in order to reduce the blood pressure. Individuals who have blood type A, will that COVID is related to blood type? It has been shown blood type A were associated with the 45% higher risk of acquiring this disease. Right? Individual with the blood type O, less likely to get the SARS-CoV-2. Looking at the death, A group individual, more death, more percentage. Right? When you see the O group, the less death. To the healthy individual. COVID-19 spread faster. It spreads faster and can be more severe and deadly than it. Most coronavirus infection causes very similar types of respiratory illness. The diagnostic tests are needed to confirm. Even some patients, they have some kind of the symptoms, such as runny nose, cough, sore throat, fatigue, fever, are the one that needs to be done in order to confirm. Well, how do we manage home self-management for individuals with mild infection? They don't have to go to that doctor. If they're positive, if they're mild, it can be controlled by staying at home. Patients should focus on prevention of transmission. If they stay at home, because they have to think about, I cannot give this virus to anyone. Prevention of transmission. And continuously monitor their condition, whether their condition is getting deteriorated, then they have to be in hospital. But hospitalized patients, those who are moderate and severe, they are managed by doctor by giving some appropriate infection control, supportive care, including oxygenation, using the ECMO or ventilation, right? Ventilation support for the patients who have the acute respiratory distress syndrome. Many drugs for therapeutic use are under clinical trial. I'm going to talk some of them. COVID-19 suggests that SARS-CoV-2 virus may both evade the innate and immune response. I mentioned that one. Delayed innate immune response and the depleted population of the macrophage can theoretically result in blunted antigen presentation, leading to the abnormal by activation of the different cells and can change the response. One clinical strategy should be to support the patient in an adaptive immune response. Anytime that we say, how do we improve their immunity, and whether the individual who has a strong immunity, they are more protected or not, is not clear. On the physiology, we know if we can build our immunity, right, build our immunity by any means, there are different ways. I'm going to talk about that one. We can have some benefit out of it, because if our immunity is strong, then we know we can fight better. So at the one end, at the other end, the disease pathology spectrum, right? One end we talked about just now. The other end, disease fatality of COVID-19 is driven by excessive production of the inflammatory material, cytokine. So second clinical strategy should be to prevent or mitigate this excessive inflammatory response. Doctors treat patients based on the symptoms, though there are no direct specific medication is available so far. The broad spectrum antiviral agent, the remdesivir, approved by the CDC, right, has been shown to inhibit the replication of other human coronaviruses. So it is being used to treat some patient, the patient who are in the hospital. It is a nucleoside analog and can prevent the RNA replication. Results from, there is a study published in the journal, including about 1,063 patients with severe COVID, found that remdesivir had a 31% faster recovery time. Recovery time is faster. Now that COVID-19 primarily infected us, breathing is important. It can result, we know that can result in pneumonia. It can cause more fluid secretion in the lung, can cause blood formation in the lung tissue, in the abdomen. So increased fluid and scar tissue are the results of the immune reaction. If those events created from the immune reaction are clear lung, it can cause the cascade of changes. It can lead to further inflammation, further damage of the lung tissue. So we need to clean that tissue. So those data needs to be clear. Which system plays a role in clearing this? Lymphatic system. Lymphatic system is in the lung. Plays a major role. Lymphatic channels and nodes filtering. They help in clearing. Lymphatic system is a power generator. As a power generator, breathing exercise, breathing activity, movement, they work as a power generator. So we know that with anybody who is infected, mild condition, it is always better to think about, oh, I have to continue my breathing activity because I know some fluid will be accumulated in our lung, and it will cause more breathing problem. So breathing exercise, movement are important. Now, a diaphragmatic breathing, I always suggest that one. Patient can sit in a comfortable position and keep the one hand open. You can advise the patient or advise the individual, or you can do it and deeply through the nose and exhale slowly through the mouth. Exhale slowly through the mouth. But during breathing, pay attention on your breathing, both inhalation and exhalation. If any individual can do this, it has a huge impact. Not only just to keep your lung healthy, but also it has some effects. So a lot of individuals these days, because of this anxiety, because we do not know what is going to happen, all this stress. So this breathing has some role in preventing or stress-induced some other changes in the body. They can clear this breathing exercise. So standard precautions, we know the hand hygiene is very important. alcohol-based solution. We have to soak our hand. We have to wash our hand. Use the PPE, gloves, gown, goggles, mask. If you cough, you have to you have to use your hand to block or just not coughing the outside to the cough, and it is going to spread because the droplets are really. Again, everybody should think about, even if you are not infected, think you are infected. If you think this way and if you behave that way, it is going to reduce the spread. Spreading is not controlled in the United States, in Brazil. Sterilization, disinfection, and environmental cleaning. Those are important. Transmission-based precaution, contact precautions, droplet precaution by using masks. Very important, and we'll talk about that one. Mask is very, very, very. So in the United States, I do see sometimes the people that will go without masks in a social gathering, right? And I do see and hear some story in India also. They will go and they get together without any mask. So airborne precaution means only one we can stop the airborne one by using the N95. So airborne precaution is that cannot be that you cannot protect yourself by using the normal regular surgical means. The number of biotech companies across the world are in different stages of development, potential for some of the vaccine. About 146 clinical trials are going on. All the treatment for COVID is yet to be found. Vaccines are now being seen in stopping the spread of this virus. So let me talk about some, just because, again, most of you are not clinicians, so some of you are clinicians, some of you are researchers. So just a few days back, last week, Novavax, they just finished their phase 1 trial. Novavax. They just completed, and their trial, their vaccine is the saponin-based matrix adjuvant. So those who are researchers, it can enhance the immune response. They put the results and they are in the positive. They think that it's their vaccine. And a lot of people, about 5 or 6, they are thinking they are so promising. Everybody thinks their vaccine will be the more efficient. Everybody is concerned about the safety. They're testing about the safety. And I hope the vaccine is going to come sometimes early in the next year. Or the safety testing, depending on the phase 3 trial, everybody will be able to understand where we are going to head. Moderna is another one that is very, very ahead of any other company, and they are doing the phase 3 right now by recruiting 30,000 patients. And that vaccine is the RNA vaccine. mRNA vaccine, what they do, they put the mRNA into the body, and those mRNA is going to produce the spike protein within the body. As soon as it produces spike protein in the body, it starts to produce its. So the individual will be set to have some antibody before, and they can fight anything else. That is the, and their results are also promising. And NIH is in collaboration with Moderna, and Dr. Fauci, all of you know well now that the scientist, and he is in touch. He is in collaboration with the Moderna. One is the University of Oxford, and their Jenner Institute. They are also developing, right? Their chance, they are the adenovirus vector and adenovirus. And they are so positive about the vaccine, and they are thinking about the 2 billion doses. In collaboration with the AstraZeneca, they completed their phase 1, phase 2 trial. And the phase 1, phase 2 trial, they're so promising because it is a 2-pronged immune response. The T cell response, it triggers the T cell, their vaccine triggers the T cell immune response in 40 days, and also antibody titer, the proven antibody response in 28 days. So it's a 2-pronged immune response, and this is very positive also, very positive. Now that the Pfizer in St. Louis, where I am, the Pfizer, and they are collaborating with the BioNTech, and they are also very promising because they are very famous about that one, and they secured about 600 million doses with the United States, and $2 billion in order to secure 100 million doses. And they are doing the phase 2 trial right now. and they are so confirmed, they are so positive about the vaccine, they also started changing their infrastructure. Another company that is Innovio, that is funded by the Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, and they are doing another type. They published one paper recently in the Nature, and their drug is known as all the code, 4800. They demonstrate robust binding and neutralizing antibody. And another company in India, Bharat Biotech, in collaboration with the National Institute of Virology, the phase 1 and phase 2 trial, they finished their preclinical trials on mice and guinea pigs, and they found this is the dead virus, the traditional way to vaccine, use the vaccine. Now the drugs, the different drugs, the nitazoxanide, that is by the Roman laboratories. This drug, that is the cocktail using the lopiravir, ritonavir, that is used for generally for HIV, violin, that is the antiviral drug, interferon beta 1, that is the immunomodulator. Those three found that is doing the multi-center trial right now in Hong Kong, and they found very promising results. The hydroxychloroquine has a lot of different stories. Right? It is an immunomodulator. It is used as antimalarial drug. It is used for autoimmune disease such as lupus, right? But hydroxychloroquine has a lot of side effects. It affects the fats. It does change the heart rhythm, right? Heart rhythm. It causes some arrhythmia. Hydroxychloroquine has some effects on the optic nerve. It has a lot of effects on the liver, and especially for individual who has the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and they are in the stage, even the stage 2 or stage 3, if they get it, they will be at more risk in the heart attack. Right? So it's very important to know, because some, I know in India they use hydroxychloroquine in order to prevent. I do not know how effective they are, but all the studies so far found it has bad effects than the good effects. Another one is the interleukin-6 inhibitor. That is the interleukin region. They have initiated the phase 3 trial. Now talking about the prevention strategy. Social distancing is very important if community transmission of SARS-CoV-2 is suspected. Best, the personal protective or personal preventive measure is the diligent hand washing. Wearing masks, diligent hand washing, using the appropriate sanitizer, at least 70% of that. Right? Wearing masks when in the public places, very important, very important. Everyone should wear masks. Even I will encourage to stay when you are at home. You are home with the other family members. We do not know my brother, my sister, my son, where they were. It is always better to, because in order to reduce the spread. Respiratory hygiene, following up. Cleaning, as I mentioned. Think about what is the percentage of chances. If the carrier does not wear the mask, and you have anything, you are putting the mask, and you are in front of near to the carrier, and your chance of getting about 70%, even if you wear mask. If the carrier wear mask, and if you do not wear mask, your probability of 5% getting it. If both carrier and you wear mask, your chance of getting about 1.5%. Think about it. If everybody can wear mask, the probability will be significantly very, very less. Right? So very important. That means I am protecting myself, but other people who has a positive, they are not protecting, they can still, I am at higher risk, 70%, get the SARS-CoV-2. In areas where the COVID-19 is prevalent, all residents should be encouraged to stay home. Very important. Practice. You have to go outside, stay inside. Individuals after national and international travel, right? And if individual they are in close contact with any patient, suspected patient, or or confirmed. CDD also suggests self-quarantine at least 14 days. All of you know that. And not only that, if you are self-quarantined, it is always better to avoid contact with individuals with a high-risk individual. Monitor your condition. Twice daily temperature check. Look for your fever, cough, dyspnea. Look for your taste, smell, your achy body, all these things. So let me talk about some numbers. Is it true that kids are not big spreaders of coronavirus? How much do children get coronavirus? That's another question. Kids can transmit the virus, for sure. They are also susceptible to it because children of all age, they are susceptible. Recently in Florida, there's a huge surge in the kids. Now, that means all schools are open. More kids are getting positive with SARS-CoV-2. Right? But one thing is clear, they are far less likely to die because they do not have that much situation. A lot of comorbid situation, they will die. Are cancer patients at high risk of severe complication if they get SARS-CoV-2? Yes. The increased risk applies to cancer patients at all ages. Having cancer in individual increases the risk about 6 to 8 times. 6 to 8 times. Should we clean our cell phone daily? Yes. That is a good idea because cell phones are basically the petri dishes in our pockets. When you consider how many surfaces we touch before your phone. We wear the gloves, we are touching the cell phone. When we distance back from our phone. When are people with coronavirus most contagious? Individuals tend to be most contagious before they develop symptoms. That is called pre-symptomatic. If they develop some symptoms. Some individuals, they get infected with the coronavirus, but they do not get the symptoms. Those are asymptomatic. Now I'm talking about another important part. How effective are different types of face masks? I prefer, and the CDC also recommends, the cloth masks are better. What type of cloth mask? The stitched mask with 2 layers of fabric, they are the best. Droplets only travel 2.5 inches to 2.5 inches. Some wear the cone style mask. With that mask, they have found this study is done in one place, I forgot, in Atlanta or Florida. The droplets travel only about 8 inches. I know a lot of people, they put the handkerchief. Folded handkerchief, perform most. This travel more than. Initially, everybody was talking about the banana is going to help because droplets can travel. Even if you put banana, it can travel up to 3 feet. Very important to know. Now let's talk about some micronutrients or the food whether they can help us in building some or in boosting our immunity. Wealth of data shows that good nutrition plays in supporting the immune system. There are different vitamins such as vitamin D, vitamin C, minerals, B6, B12, right? They're helpful. Minerals such as zinc, omega-3 fatty acids, they are typical for immune function. Vitamin D enhances the pathogen fighting effects of monocyte macrophage. That is well established. And if we can activate the monocyte macrophage, they are going to, those are the primary, those are the first line of defense. Those are the innate immunity. We can build some innate immunity. A randomized control trial by recruiting 11,000 patients, more than 11,000 patients, they've found this show that vitamin significantly decrease the risk of respiratory infection who are deficient in vitamin D. And they have found those are deficient and more vitamin D deficiency in the United States. Those who have the vitamin D deficiency, they are at risk of multiple different diseases, including some infectious disease. The respiratory infection can be protected by giving some by using some supplement of vitamin D. Observational data comparing the outcomes. They have found that the various countries, the inverse relationship between the vitamin D levels and the severity of the COVID-19 response. Again, the vitamin D is very important. Another part. This is important that we published in one journal, right? Irish Medical Journal. They found in Europe, especially in Spain, northern Italy, right? They had higher rates of vitamin D deficiency. And also they experienced some of the highest COVID-19 infection. So there is a correlation of the vitamin D deficiency and the infection with the COVID-19. So it is also established, it is also found that vitamin D can also lower the celiac protein, which is another inflammatory marker. How the vitamin C is going to help? Vitamin C is well known for antioxidant properties. Right? All of you know that there's a lot of students from the nutrition diet there. It has numerous other functions, including supplemental function. We know that during infection, vitamin C level gets depleted. Because infection, they are not going to eat that much. Infection is going to have several effects, including their absorption function, the digestive functions. Right? So as a result, their vitamin C will be depleted. If they get the vitamin C supplement, the supplement should be to intravenous. Because if they have to take enough the vitamin C orally, that's what the evidence indicates. After IV infusion of vitamin C in individual with acute respiratory distress syndrome. Vitamin C. How about the vitamin B6 and 12? Both are immune response. Many adults, especially as we age, our absorption declines. We are prone to get some deficiency. So it is always better to get B6 and B12. Right? So B6, B12 supplements may help in boosting our function also. Zinc is another one. Zinc is a mineral that is essential for the immune function. Next, if we get infected, it is going to have some protection. It is going to it is going to make the infections less severe. You know the zinc. There is a role in both cell-mediated and human immunity. Numerous studies show that zinc supplements can protect against respiratory tract infection. Zinc is another one. Now thinking about some food. So we consume, what they do consume. Garlic has anti-inflammatory and antiviral effects. One that component in the garlic that is called allicin, and which is thought to fight the virus and boost immunity. The garlic can activate and stimulate lymphocyte, natural killer cell, eosinophil. All of them, the liquidation of the cytokine signal and immunoglobulin production of phagocytosis. So you take about 2 per day with warm water every day. 1 to 2 cloves of garlic depending on the size. Always better. It has other beneficial effects. On the cardiac, blood pressure, it has a lot of different beneficial effects. Cinnamon. Cinnamon has a constituents about 65 to 80% is a cinnamon. It is well known for its ability to regulate or control blood pressure and blood movement. So we know the cinnamon can also have a huge impact on our immune function. Right? So we know that any time you get the viral infection, like you will the cinnamon to some extent. So I also suggest to just a little piece of the cinnamon, soak in the water, in a cup of water overnight, and drink in the morning. Add some more. Right? Not only controlling your blood glucose or blood pressure, but also the system. Back to the vitamin. Vitamins are antiviral, antibacterial. and some mushroom has toxin. Look at which mushroom we are consuming. Here we are mushroom and eat that one and eat that. Curcumin and ginger. Curcumin is anti-inflammatory. It is in the turmeric. Curcumin is in the turmeric. An anti-inflammatory property, because we know a lot of people don't have the inflammation, right? So, and we talk about that one. Ginger also boosts our immune system, like fighting infections. It has anti-inflammatory property also. So now I'm going to shift this one to the movement. Movements and activities are important to maintain our quality of life and sense of well-being. Those who are fit, those who are more physically fit, they are highly protected if they do not have any other comorbid situation. The pandemic gives us a new challenge. New challenge for staying physically active, because we cannot go to gym, we cannot do. But that doesn't mean that if we cannot go to the gym, we can do all the activities at home. Right? Say, oh, we are disclosed, we cannot do anything. Stop moving. Exercise and physical activity is always good in order to establish a better immune system. Physical activity can also reduce our stress, our anxiety and stress. Those who practice regular this exercise, they will feel. If they do not practice one day, they will feel different. So not only that, it is going to reduce anxiety, it also improves the cardiovascular function, respiratory function. So increase release of endorphin movement exercise, and that way you feel good. It can reduce stress. It increases sense of achievement. It can build some positive image. It can enhance your self-esteem. All these are affected because of this pandemic. And it can have some effects on the overall performance. Reduce depression and anxiety, and also quality of sleep. Fear, anxiety level increase. Stress has grown considerably during the pandemic. Because a storm of stress hormone. We know that when we are through the stress, we'll have a stress hormone, cortisol, adrenaline. And that can lead to the high blood pressure, heart disease. I can tell you, the consequence of this disease, staying at home, consequence of this pandemic, people are staying at home, and most people, they are going through stress. They are having anxiety. Stress, their cortisol is high, their adrenaline. They will suffer with some other conditions such as high blood pressure. So increased cortisol secretion can suppress the natural killer cell, and thereby reduces the immunity. If we have stress, we have to control our stress. Stress and anxiety can increase the adrenaline and noradrenaline, and that can cause a lot of sympathetic adrenaline, noradrenaline, and they are going to increase the heart rate. For some increased blood pressure, it can cause several changes. We have to reduce that. How can I do? Again, by using some breathing technique. We do not need any medication to control. We can control our stress and anxiety if we can regulate. Again, I can say that one, but I cannot say it is 100%. So at least each and everybody that practice, they will get some benefit out of it. One is called the left nostril breathing. I used to teach the yoga and meditation when I was in Calcutta. Left nostril breathing is you inhale slowly through left nostril, exhale slowly through the right nostril. And that is a good, it can cause some relaxation. It is going to reduce your stress. Those who practice every day, and they're going to feel it. Right nostril breathing is again inhalation through the right nostril and exhalation through the left. And then followed by the alternate nostril breathing. Alternate nostril breathing means inhale through the left, exhale to the right, followed by inhale to the right, exhale to the right. This just plays a role in synchronizing. And followed by at the end is called the Savasana, cross pose, with slow breathing with imaging. Very good activity in order to reduce your stress and reduce your anxiety. We know we all are. Take care of your body, eat healthy food, exercise regularly, get plenty of sleep, avoid alcohol, and manage your stress level. Share your feelings with friends and family members, right? But avoid excessive exposure to media combination. That is another stress. Right? A lot of confusion, a lot of things in the media, and somebody says something and some other says some other things. A lot of confusion, and that is going to create more anxiety and fear. These are my references. Let me share my video clip, right? The video clips are important. So I have about few minutes. So I'm going to stop sharing this one. Then I'm going to go to the video clip. Oh, share. There's another. Which is here. This is the one I'm giving what I said, very gist. Let me share with the other one. That one, how this virus. This is done in the Florida Atlantic University for visualization. How far it can travel when you cough, sneeze, forceful cough. So you can go beyond the 6.2. Know the technology. here. 8 feet. Let me show the other one. How the protective mask is going to help it. What is a, let me make this one faster. This from Germany. By putting the mask, they look for which mask is better and how can we reduce the spread. It's called the image velocimetry. Normal, it goes beyond that line.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir, the presentation is not seen.
Yes,
Oh, it's not seen?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, sorry.
And sorry to interrupt you, sir. We are running
Okay,
short of time.
Okay.
So we are.
So-
we have another speaker waiting, sir.
Okay, so that
I think we
we
must
can stop
conclude
here
this
then.
time.
Yeah, we
Sir,
can
your
stop here then.
presentation.
Yeah, but my time is right now. I started is 1 hour 15 minutes right now. Yeah. All right. Let me stop here. Any questions? I'll wait for that one. Receive the question.
Yes, sir. Lot of questions are coming in the chat box. I think Rupsha.
Thank you very much,
have a
sir.
question. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, sir. I, on behalf of the organizing committee, would like to thank Professor Ghosh for such a well-organized, vivid, and illuminating presentation on coronavirus disease, especially in these testing times. Now, we move on to our next session, and I request Dr. Devasri Dev Ghosh, convener of this webinar and head, Department of Food and Nutrition, to kindly introduce our next speaker. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rupsha. Good evening, everyone, honorable guests, Principal Madam, my fellow faculty members of THK Jain College, and all the participants. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker of Technical Session 2 today, who is going to talk to us about coronavirus disease COVID-19 global public health emergency. This is a subject we should all be deeply interested because it's by being aware of what COVID-19 virus is and how it spreads we can best ensure our good health in the current scenario. Our speaker has completed his MBBS from Bardhaman Medical College, India, and MD from All India Institute of Hygiene and Public Health, University of Calcutta in Preventive and Social Medicine, Community Medicine, Public Health. He also got diploma in Public Health and Maternity and Child Welfare from All India Institute of Hygiene and Public Health, University of Calcutta. Although having spent almost his entire career advising people and teaching students about the epidemiology of various diseases and its impacts, Sir has a teaching experience decades, having published over 32 international articles and 31 national articles. His research specializations are health hazards of groundwater pollution with arsenic and fluoride, HIV/AIDS, sanitation. His projects and fieldwork are an extra push for the students and us teachers to work harder and contribute to the society and its people with knowledge and dedicated work. Sir has worked with UNICEF as consultant for training of medical officers, Central Groundwater Board and PhD staffs of Jharkhand, Bihar, Karnataka and Assam. Working as co-investigator of the research project entitled epidemiological study on prevalence of arsenic-related skin cancer and arsenic mitigation activity in arsenic endemic district of Nadia under DNGM Research Foundation, Indian Council of Medical Research, New Delhi. He is presently working as co-investigator of the research project entitled Risk Assessment from Multi-Metal Exposure for the Population in Arsenic-Affected Areas of West Bengal, India, and Possible Mitigation Strategy, and co-investigator of the research project entitled Perturbations in Human Gut Microbiome and Their Interactions with Host Genetics on Long-Term Exposure of Arsenic, funded by Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, New Delhi, through National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, Government of India, Kolkata. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Kunal Kanti Mojumdar, Professor, Department of Community Medicine, KPC Medical College and Hospital, Kolkata. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible, Shop? Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Is it okay? Hello?
Sir, it is okay. Sir, it is okay. We can hear you.
So you can see my presentation properly, everyone?
No, sir, you are not presenting.
Okay, then.
We can only see you. You have to repeat the process.
Please help, sir. Ruksha, please help, sir.
Yes. Sir, you start with present now. And then when you see this small version of your entire screen, click on that. And then you can share. Your entire screen. Then you can see the small version of your entire, yes, sir. Now you minimize this and you start presenting your presentation. Sir, you have to minimize this screen. You have to minimize this screen. At the top.
Yes, by
Right hand side, top right hand side.
yeah, but I cannot see that app of minimizing. It is saying that you are presenting. Then
You have to minimize the screen. Sir, you start doing it again.
Yeah. Your entire screen. Then
Yes. You see the smaller version of the screen. You select that.
Yeah, then share.
Yes.
Then I'm minimizing the whole thing. Huh?
Yes. You have. Yes, sir.
Then
Now you just open your PowerPoint presentation.
now you can see.
Yes, sir.
Can you see my
Just
presentation
make
now?
it. Yes, sir. Just make
Okay,
it full
thank
screen.
So thank you for giving me an opportunity to present before you such a largest audience. So I'm just going to present about coronavirus disease COVID-19, which is now a global public health emergency and a global pandemic is going on. So without an introduction, I will go straight to the topic. Because coronavirus disease 2019, you know that is known as COVID-19. CO means corona, VI virus, and D for disease. So it was first identified in 31st December 2019. And WHO announced in February 2020 that COVID-19 is an official name of the disease. So it is an infectious disease basically, which is caused by virus named as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2. main COVID-19, the virus that it causes, it is named as SARS-CoV-2. So the common symptoms, as you have already heard, that main common symptoms are three, by which a patient will present before you, that is fever, cough, and shortness of breath. So along with that, there can be other symptoms like muscle pain, sputum production, diarrhea, sore throat, loss of smell, taste, and abdominal pain. While majority of the patients will show the symptoms and will be cured from the disease. We know that around 80% of the patient gets cured, but it will, in some patients, it can cause some complications that we will discuss later. So the disease was first identified in December 2019 in Wuhan, the capital of China's Hubei province, and has since spread globally, now resulting in the ongoing 2019-2020 coronavirus pandemic. In August 2020, more than 19.2 million cases have been reported across 188 countries and territories, resulting in more than 1,000 deaths, and more than 11.6 million people have been recovered. So that is a positive, that people are also recovering from the disease. And the virus is thought to be a natural origin that we have already known through spillover infections. Initially, it was thought that the virus was mainly circulating amongst the animals, and from animals, the humans got infected. The origin is unknown, but by December 2019, the spread of infection was almost entirely driven by human-to-human transmission. We thought that it was the virus, just like other coronavirus, it infected the animals, and somehow from animals it spread to the human. But the most important thing is that from December 2019, almost entirely the virus is spreading transmission. That is why it is creating so many problems. So the earliest known infection occurred in 17 November 2019 in Wuhan, China. And since then, more than 80,000 COVID-19 cases have been reported in China, with majority of those from Hubei and surrounding provinces. Of 27th March, around 4.7%, ranging 0.2 to 15% patients according to the age is the per number of diagnosed cases. So if there are 100 cases, it is expected that around 4.7% patients will die. But in case of pandemic, this percentage may increase and can vary from 0.2 to 15%. Basically, in India also, if we consider the Indian problem, so the first case in 2019-20 coronavirus pandemic in India was reported in 30th January 2020, originating from China, and the country reported its first 3 cases in Kerala, and all of whom were students who had returned from Wuhan, China. The transmission escalated in the month of March, and after several cases were reported all over the country, and most of which were linked to people with a travel history to the affected countries. So as of 8th August, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare have confirmed a total around 6,19,088 active cases, out of which around cured, there are discharged around 42,518 deaths. And the infection rate of COVID-19 in India is reported to be around 1.7%, and significantly it is lower than in the worst affected countries. And the outbreak has been declared an epidemic because we know that what do you mean by an epidemic? Because when a certain health condition or a state or a disease occurs clearly in excess of normal expectancy, unusual occurrence of a disease or a health-related event in a defined geographical area, clearly in excess of expected occurrence, that is, if it is usually, if we find around around 100 cases of a particular disease in a particular defined area. In some year, it became 500, definitely, then we can call it an epidemic. And if this epidemic occurs over a larger area, affecting not only a single area, but different countries at a time, this is known as pandemic. What is just now, what is going on for COVID-19. And earlier we had influenza pandemic, and during this pandemic, usually some acts, some legal measures had to be taken by the government of many countries to contain the disease, to minimize the spread of disease. That is why Epidemic Disease Act which was first implemented in 1897, and now India is also implementing the act because pandemic is also there in India. So in West Bengal also the situation is not very good. So there are 24,652 active cases, around 63,600 patients who are totally discharged or migrated. There are deaths, around 1,954 deaths, and there are new positive cases around near about 2,912. That is near about 3,000 new positive cases are coming up each and every day, and also the recovery rate is quite high. The main positive thing is that in West Bengal also, as well as in India, the recovery rate is around more than 65%. So more and more people are also getting cured, also getting discharged from the hospital. So when we speak about epidemiology is nothing but study of distribution as well as determinants of any health-related states or event in a defined geographical area, and application of the same for control of many diseases. So basically, it is a study of distribution as well as determinants, that is causes of any disease. So here also, usually in late 2019, we know that WHO assigned emergency International Disease Code 10 for this COVID-19, U07.1 for deaths of laboratory confirmed cases, and 7.2 for deaths from clinically and epidemiology diagnosed cases. So several measures are commonly used to quantify mortality depending on volume of testing, healthcare system, quality, treatment options, etc. And commonly used measures by which we can measure the, you can say, the severity of the disease, the fatality of the disease, one is death to case ratio, where which reflects the number of deaths divided by the number of diagnosed cases within a given time interval. And the global death to case ratio is around 4.7%, which I already told you, which reflects the percent of diagnosed individuals who die from a disease. And there is another indicator, that is there is infection fatality rate, which reflects the percent of infected individual, they may or may not be diagnosed, who die from the disease. And the overall case fatality rate in India is around 2.3%, which is very positive. That is very, and I think that death rate case fatality is very less in India as compared to the other developed countries or other countries. So basically, while studying epidemiology, we usually go through some epidemiological triad. It means that mainly it is applied for any infectious disease. Mainly three most important things which are responsible for occurrence of any disease. One is agent, that is the causative factor which is responsible for causation of disease. One is host, that is human beings. What are the characteristics, what are the human behavior, and how we are susceptible to that particular disease, and the environmental factors which are responsible for the spread of disease. So basically, if we consider the epidemiological triad consisting of agent, host, and environment, then we can have an overall idea about the occurrence as well as the distribution of disease. So basically here in COVID-19, the agent is a virus, severe acute respiratory distress syndrome virus, SARS-CoV-2. So it is a large family of single-stranded RNA virus. Basically, it is RNA virus that can be isolated in different animal species. And we know that there are various other species of coronaviruses which can cause these various diseases in animals, starting from running nose, starting from common cold to diarrhea and other diseases. And for reasons yet to be explained, these viruses can cross species barriers. It can cross from one species to another. And these viruses can cross species barriers and can cause in humans illnesses ranging from common cold to more severe diseases. As we know that earlier we had some serious diseases caused by coronavirus, that is MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, and severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS and MERS. So the virus is thought to be of natural and have an animal origin. And the virus can survive on surfaces up to 72 hours. As we have known that we had a discussion that whether the virus can survive outside the human body. It was found that it can survive on various surfaces depending upon the type of material the surface is made of. So a study investigating the rate of decay of virus found no viable viruses after 4 hours on copper, 24 hours on cardboard, 72 hours on stainless steel, and 72 hours on plastic. So maximum virus stay is there on plastic as well as cardboard. But there are differences of opinion regarding the duration of the viruses on these surfaces. But we have also found that in human fishes also the virus can survive for 1 to 12 days. So there is also theoretical chance of fecal-oral transmission of disease. The virus can be transmitted from by fecal-oral route, just like polio and others. But still now it is not well established whether is transmitted by fecal-oral route. But definitely if we consider that we should follow all our hygienic measures like proper hand washing after defecation and proper disposal of feces and stopping open field defecation, all these factors will also help in prevention of spread of coronavirus disease if it is considered as to be fecal-oral route. So regarding host factors, so what are the factors on which our human beings are more susceptible, or what are factors which play a very significant role on human being? One is age factor is very important. The virus can affect all ages. Children are susceptible to the disease but are likely to have milder symptoms and a lower chance of severe disease than adults. It was found that in 50 years, the risk of death is less than 0.5%, while in those older than 70 years, it is more than 8%. So there is definite significance of risk of death along with age. So among the high risk group, definitely pregnant women may be considered as high risk group, because severity of infection with COVID-19 based on data from other similar viruses like SARS and MERS, there we have seen that chances of complications or severe disease is much higher in pregnant women because of their immunological state, because they are in an immunological compromised state. But there is no such evidence that the virus can be transmitted from a mother to the fetus. That is, vertical transmission is there. So whether the virus is transmitted from mother to the newborn, there is no such definite evidence. In regarding sex, both sexes are equally susceptible to the virus, but we have found that males are getting more infected because they are more exposed to the outside world. And a study in China and Italy have shown that the death rate is disproportionately high among men. The incubation period, that is the period between the entry of virus in our body to the onset of signs of symptoms or appearance of signs of symptoms, there is a definite time interval. It's around 5 to 6 days, but it varies from 2 to 14 days. But we have seen that 97.5% people will develop symptoms within 11.5 days of infections. So basically, most of the people who develop the disease symptoms, they will develop it within 5 to 6 days of entry of virus within our body. So regarding the routes of transmission, we have had enough discussion regarding how the virus spreads. We know that basically the virus is spread mainly through close contact. It's close human contact is necessary. Respiratory droplets, which is produced when people cough or sneeze, and this person-to-person spread of virus is thought to occur mainly via respiratory droplets. These are minute droplets which are produced while we sneeze, while we cough, while we sing, while we speak, and with droplet transmission, the virus is released in the respiratory secretions when a person with infection coughs, sneezes, and talks, and can infect another person if it makes direct contact with the mucous membrane. That is, the respiratory droplet, which is produced by another infected persons while coughing, sneezing, or speaking even, and then that inhaled droplet can contain virus and subsequently it can cause disease. So infection, another way of spreading infection is that by fomites. So we know that infection can also occur if a person touches an infected surface, or her eyes, nose, or mouth. Now these droplets typically do not travel more than 6 feet. That is about 2 meters. Linger in the air. They do not remain suspended in the air for a longer time. That is why there was doubt, really airborne or not, because these droplets usually do not remain suspended in air for a long time. They settle in the ground, not only in the ground, also on the high touch surfaces like tabletops or chairs or door handles, surfaces. And if a person, non-infected person, touches those surfaces with bare hands and again touches his eyes, ears with their unwashed hands, then they can also get the disease. That is why the people are most infectious when they are symptomatic, because when they are having symptoms means if they are having cough, because cough is one of the most important symptoms of coronavirus. So if the people who are having symptoms like cough, sneezing, etc., they are most infectious because they spread the virus to their coughing or sneezing, etc., in comparison to asymptomatic individuals. But asymptomatic individuals can also spread the disease, because we know that if we also, and there is not that minimum distance of 6 feet is not maintained, even for talking minute respiratory drop, and they can remain suspended in air for minutes also. So definitely infectivity, how long the person remains infective, now this is uncertain. So, and it depends upon the severity of the disease. 21 patients with mild illness with no hypoxia, 20% had repeated negative viral RNA test or nasopharyngeal swab by 10 days after the onset of symptoms. After the onset of symptoms, usually the person remains infective on an average of 10 days, positive for longer in patients with more severe illness. So if the patient is suffering or having more severe illness, this period of infectivity usually gets longer. And the transmission from asymptomatic individuals or individuals within the incubation period, we call them as pre-symptomatic persons having very less symptoms. So there is also possibility of transmission of disease, but to a lesser extent in comparison to the symptomatic individuals. Now, immune factor, because antibodies to the virus are induced in those who have become infected. Moreover, it is unknown whether all infected persons mount a protective immune response and how long this protective effect will last. Adequate amount of protective immunity will develop after infection and whether that immunity will be sustainable long time, that will help, that will protect the person from reinfection for a long period of time. That is quite doubtful. So we have very many other evidences to show that immunity which develops after infection is not adequate, and also it may not sustain, but may not remain for a longer time. So that is why we are also getting reinfections. Patients are getting cured and again getting readmitted with the disease after a few days. So immunity is also based on the behavior of other coronaviruses. But cases in which recovery from COVID-19 have been followed by positive tests for coronavirus at a later date have been reported. That is, it has been reported recently in West Bengal also, as well as in other states, that we are getting reinfected cases. We are getting again patients who have recovered from corona. Again, they are coming up with positive tests. So it is unclear if these cases are as a result of reinfection, reactivation, or there can be some testing error, which can lead to false negative at the time of discharge. That all these things can be responsible for this recurrence of cases. So disease spreads further where people are close together. That is very important, because for one man-to-man transmission, this close contact is very important, because this close contact is responsible for the spread of disease by respiratory droplets or travel between areas. So if we travel with a person for a long duration of time, suppose in railways, if a person travels, if a laborers travel more than 72 hours in a train, a co-passenger who on later stages found to be positive for around 48 hours, so 72 hours. So there the duration of exposure is much more. Maybe he is coming from some highly endemic state where corona is occurring in a much greater extent, maybe in Maharashtra or in Tamil Nadu, and he is coming to a less endemic state like West Bengal or Bihar, whatever maybe, in a train for around 40 to 72 hours. And here maybe one of his or her fellow passengers may be carrying infection. So there the chances of infection is much higher. So this travel restriction is one of the strategy by which we can restrict the spread of infection. I think I will not go into very much detail about the pathology. Few data are available about the microscopic lesions and pathophysiology of COVID-19. We discussed in detail. Still, we don't know many things because it is a new disease, and still we are getting newer facts daily. Mainly, we are getting that in case of COVID, we know that the main thing which occurs is that there is this multi-system involvement, and mainly the lungs is the main organ which is involved in COVID, because this COVID virus enters our host cells through angiotensin converting enzyme AC2 receptors are mainly responsible, and these AC2 receptors are quite high in lungs, GI tract, as well as in heart. It's basically the manifestations are most leading to pleurisy, pericarditis, lung consolidation, and pulmonary edema. Basically, in lungs, there can be viral pneumonia, there can be minor pneumonia with minor serous exudation, there can be mild pneumonia with pulmonary edema along with pneumocyte hyperplasia. There can be severe pneumonia with diffuse alveolar damage, responsible for this acute respiratory distress syndrome, and along with severe hypoxemia, where their patient will suffer decrease in oxygen blood. So oxygen saturation of blood decreases markedly in cases of severe pneumonia with diffuse alveolar damage. Healing pneumonia, where there is organization of exudates in alveolar cavities. And in blood, there is another very important thing which can occur, that is disseminated intravascular coagulation. Corona has a predilection of causing thrombosis, thromboembolic manifestations, and various disseminated intravascular coagulation, and that is one of the more important in corona patients. There can be multi-system involvement, there can be diffuse intravascular coagulation, sepsis, and death. And also we have know that as corona is a disease which affects almost all systems of our body, it can involve liver also, it can involve our central nervous system. Another most important thing is the cytokine storm that happens with other viral infections also. That is, but it is most marked in coronavirus, where there is excessive secretion of cytokines as a response towards, it is an immune response, and that leads to excessive inflammation of these organs. And this is one of the reasons of death, that is cytokine storm of corona patients. So symptoms usually in West Bengal as well as in India, maximum number of patients usually present with fever, followed by dry cough, followed by fatigue, then sputum production, then loss of smell, loss of taste, and shortness of breath, muscle pain, etc. So basically, we generally consider 3 cardinal symptoms for corona COVID-19. These are fever, dry cough, and so if a patient presents with any 2 of these cardinal features, then he is suspected to be suffering from the illness during the time of epidemic. So basically, fever is also most common, although fever is very common in case of COVID-19, but it is also variable. We have found that around 41% of hospital admissible patients did not have fever at the time of admission. They develop fever, around 89 to 90% patients develop fever sometimes after they get admitted. So fever may not be the initial manifestations of COVID-19 infection. So many of the patients may present with cough, many of the patients may present with, in China initially, many patients presented with chest tightness, palpitations, etc. So, and many patients may be asymptomatic also. Around 20%, now we are also seeing around 40% patient can be asymptomatic. They don't have any symptoms. Or they can develop mild symptoms, mild flu-like symptoms like fever, cough, fatigue, shortness of breath. Usually shortness of breath comes few days after the onset of cough and fever. If you get shortness of breath on the first day of fever, that may be due to some anxiety and other causes, may not be due to corona, but shortness of breath, breathing difficulty, these are presenting features of corona. And emergency symptoms include difficulty in breathing. Once the patient starts having difficulty in breathing, then emergency conditions arises. So there can be persistent chest pain or pressure, feeling of tightness in the chest, confusion. The patient may find difficulty in walking. There can be bluish face or lips due to cyanosis. And immediate medical attention is advised if these symptoms are present. So in some, the disease may progress to pneumonia, multi-organ failure, death, we have already discussed. Develop severe symptoms. Time from symptom onset to needing mechanical ventilation, that is artificial ventilation, is typically around 8 days. So once the severity of breathing starts, patients within a week develops respiratory failure and mechanical ventilation is needed. But the most positive thing is that majority of the patients mild symptoms, and around 81% the patient with mild symptoms, Only in 14% cases we get severe disease like dyspnea or difficulty in breathing, hypoxia, less oxygen saturation, and more than 15% lung involvement. And these patients need hospital admission. For asymptomatic patients or patients who have very mild symptoms without any respiratory difficulty, only fever with sore throat, fatigue, less sensation of taste, smell, or muscle pain, or joint pain, kept in the home in isolation and can be treated. But once the patient develops emergency symptoms like breathing difficulty, chest pain, presence of tightness in the admission, that means that disease is not mild. It is either going to be severe, get severe, there is rapid downward course, and within 7 days he can suffer from respiratory failure. That is only 14%. Disease with respiratory failure, shock, multi-organ failure, and death was reported in only 5% of cases. So majority of cases may be mild, or they are asymptomatic, need hospitalization. Only supportive care and medicine will cure the patient. And overall case fatality rate, that is overall death rate, is only 2.3%. Even India now, the situation is we are having death rate is around 2.3, just little more than 2%. And that is also mainly limited to the critically sick patients. And the recovery rate is also quite high in India, is around 65%. In West Bengal, it is near about 70%. So there is no, we should not be panicked. We should not be very much afraid, fear, etc. because patients are supposed to get cured. But there are some risk factors for severe illness, especially adults or aged persons above 65 years of age, having some underlying medical comorbidities, we call them as comorbidities, like cardiovascular disease, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, chronic lung disease, cancer, chronic kidney disease. They are more susceptible to severe form of disease in comparison to the other. So in USA, the median age of 101 facility residents affected was 83 years, and 94% had chronic underlying conditions. The hospitalization and preliminary case fatality rates were 55 and 34% respectively. Patients who are above 65 years of age, aged persons, having some comorbid diseases like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hypertension, chronic lung disease, cancer, chronic kidney disease, because patients having cancer is already immunosuppressed, less in comparison to a normal ordinary person. So he is more susceptible to complications related to COVID-19. So regarding laboratory findings, basically standard testing is reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction, RT-PCR. That is the standard method of treatment. It's typically done on respiratory samples obtained by a nasopharyngeal swab. However, a nasal swab or a sputum sample may also be used, and results are generally available within few hours to 2 days. Besides that, there can be rapid antibody-based blood tests for symptomatic patients getting influenza-like illness. Blood samples are also taken in patients for antigens test, antibody test, as well as we have seen that routine markers of blood, there is a decrease in the number of WBC white blood cell count, especially the lymphocyte count. Neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio is another helpful for early screening. We can do chest X-rays done in cases, in mild to moderate cases, we get typical findings of ground glass opacities in the lungs, with or without consolidation. the most important thing is nowadays we're finding the clotting abnormalities are there. So their patients are more susceptible to various types of thrombosis, or there is abnormal clotting phenomenon, there is embolic phenomenon. So usually plan to exclude, and D-dimer level is also high in patients with those problem. So regarding prevention, in public health, usually we describe prevention under three types of preventions, we call them. One is primary. Preventive measures are usually taken before the onset of disease. Secondary, when the disease has already occurred in a person, measures by which we can prevent the spread of disease, and we can prevent the further complications, we can prevent the further death. So that is the secondary level of prevention. Another is tertiary level of prevention, where the disease has already occurred, it has already caused some damage, left with some residual problems. There we can go for tertiary level of prevention. So in primary level of prevention, what we can do to prevent the occurrence of disease, that is what measures we can take before the occurrence of disease. There are two interventions that is responsible in primary level. These are the modes of intervention, we call them. The primary level of prevention. One is health promotion, another is specific protection. What health promotional measures we can take? We all know that to reduce the chances of infections include staying at home, avoiding crowded places, soap and water more often, and for at least 20 seconds. That is very important. That means properly involving all surfaces of the hands as well as fingers for at least 20 seconds. Now we are saying that you can continue it for 40 seconds also. And in absence of any soap and water, you can use sanitizers, but it should contain isopropyl alcohol. So the sanitizer should be at least 70%. That is very important. Hand hygiene. Another most important thing is practicing good respiratory hygiene. That is, in absence of any tissue, in absence of any handkerchief, in absence of any mask, our face with or inside elbow, that is clearly seen in the picture. And we should not sneeze or we should not cough on palm of our hand. In case if we use the palm, immediately wash our hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. Touching our eyes, nose and mouth with these unwashed hands. The virus usually spreads and droplets are deposited on the palms and hands while sneezing. And if we use this touching our eyes, nose and mouth, definitely it will infect our mucous membrane. So covering the mouth and nose with tissue when coughing or sneezing and using the inside of elbow if no tissue is available. Proper hand hygiene after cough or sneeze. So these are all health promotional measures: maintaining physical distance, proper hand washing, proper respiratory hygiene, proper hand hygiene, avoiding crowded places, as well as avoiding gatherings, etc. So by which we can avoid contact with coronavirus. Now there are some specific protective measures. Specific protective measures in all communicable disease, because by vaccines only we can prevent ourselves from disease in a very, very cost-effective way. The vaccine against SARS-CoV-2 is not expected to become available until 2021. Although plenty of vaccines are going through the various phases of trial. if it is available, whether it will be available to the general public. That means that vaccines need to be prepared in a large extent in some institution, in some laboratories, medical agencies, and then it should be distributed. Population of a country. That will take time, maybe not, maybe at the end of the year or next year. So until then, the key part of managing COVID-19 pandemic is trying to decrease the epidemic peak, decrease the number of cases which are occurring, new cases which are occurring per day. Only by means of these health promotional measures, what we have already discussed. And slowing the infection rate will help decrease the risk of health services being overwhelmed of current cases. So initially, phenomenon or keeping restriction of movement of people was necessary to prepare our health infrastructure so that we can tackle large number of cases at a time. Lockdown was needed, and another thing is that till the vaccine is available, the thing we can do is we should protect ourselves by all means. The most important protective measures is use of masks. So now it is recommended that whenever you go outside your house, you must wear mask. Mask in public. And it is also a punishable offense if someone do not wear mask in public places. But initially, WHO told that use of mask is recommended only if a person is coughing or sneezing, or when one is taking care of someone with a suspected infection. So initially, we thought that only the people who are having some symptoms